And welcome in. I'm Stan the Fan Charles, and here we are with Ross Grimsley for another evening of Pressbox Live. Both of us with Pressbox and PressBoxOnline.com. Ross, first of all, happy, healthy New Year to you and Bird and the kids. Hope it was a fun evening for you.
A great time as usual, but happy New Year to you. We spent it with my daughter over in. She was right across the street from Merriweather Post Pavilion. Brand new complex there. So we went, watched the fireworks that went off every hour. It was midnight from 7 on every hour on the hour. And then the lights, it was a fantastic. I had never been to Merriweather, and they have really turned that into a great venue, especially if you want to watch a concert. I think it would be a great place to go. But yeah, we had a great time, a lot of fun.
Well, I'm looking forward to the days we can get back out to concerts and ball games and things of that, movie theaters, restaurants, and all that jazz.
Life as we used to know it.
Yeah, life as we used to know it. Hey, we don't have a guest tonight, and that was partially by design. I tried to pinpoint Ben McDonald to come on with us tonight, and Ben was willing, but he was away with about 4 or 5 guys on a hunting trip.
That would have been great.
And as he started to explain to me, he says, I got to get away from them. I said, Ben, I said, are you back home next Monday night? And he said, yeah, I'm home. Next Monday would be great. So I said, forget it. Let's do it. And I thought, give us a chance to kind of reset the whole baseball picture, both from the Orioles perspective and MLB's perspective. And yesterday, I did a Zoom virtual talk in front of about 40 guys from the Bethel Synagogue. And I painted my picture for what I thought the 2021 season is going to look like, and I still maintain it's going to be about 100 to 110 games, max 120. And I explained it to them how, there's all this pressure on baseball now that they proved they could play games last year and people could stay healthy and they could get to games. But there's sort of like from the Players Association, there's not sort of even a slight understanding or at least a tacit agreement that, God, it's tough for these owners to pay these salaries, without fans in the stands. And that's, to me, the real fly in the whole ointment here is that until fans come, the owners really don't want to play all these regular season games. Their big money is the postseason. Their big money is the postseason TV money. And I think they'll get started significantly earlier than last year, but I see that there's no talks going on. But anyway, I finish up this talk yesterday, and I pop on MLB trade rumors around 12:30 yesterday before the Raven game, and I see that they have a vague story with no real quotes, but both sources from MLB PA and the owners are saying they're expecting to go forward with 162 games. Help me out here. Do you see that as a possibility?
I have a very slim chance. I would think. I mean, I did a little sniffing around today. Talked to a few people that I know that are there's some higher up folks, and they kind of look at maybe 130, 135 games. Spring training starting toward the end of April. Season possibly starting in May. It's really with the virus, you just can't tell. And then the new version of the virus,
this new variant is supposed to be it's not supposed to be more deadly directly, but it's supposed to be much more infectious.
Contagious, exactly. Contagious. I mean, that is, and rumor has it that the spring training, I asked where's spring training going to be. They're going to have that the buoy type situation here in Baltimore. They said no, they would probably have it in Florida or Arizona, wherever your team is located. So I'm going, okay, well, that's a little bit, hopefully they can do that, but I just don't see it with the virus is still there. They're not getting, I don't see Major League players or minor league players getting the shots before me.
Yep.
I'm 71. I'll be 71 Thursday.
I'll be 60. You're a Capricorn too.
Yes, I am. Everybody in my family seems to be Capricorn.
I'm going to be Wednesday. I'll be 69.
Oh, geez. Wednesday. I got my son. He's the 13th.
So you're the 8th. You're the 8th.
I'm 7th. I'm the
Seventh.
seventh.
That was my
Seventh.
Aunt Esther was the
Right.
seventh. Yeah.
So right around Elvis's birthday.
That's right. That's right. So anyway, here's my question that I get confused with, and I've talked to a good friend of mine, Tim Tremblay. You know Tim,
Yes. Yeah.
the
Very
computer
well.
guy,
Yeah.
and he's now a teacher
Right.
down in Sarasota. He's given up his computer business, most of his computer business. Anyway, he tells me that he knows from some people he's talked to that Major League Baseball is buying up sort of hotel space like bubbles for an entire organization. You know, they're not buying
Yeah.
the
Right.
hotels; they're buying them up and taking over a small
Yeah.
hotel. But I don't understand if we in fact are only going to play 130 or like I say 110. It seems to me you're going to push back spring training 5 or 6 weeks. That there would be
Right.
nothing wrong with having the Orioles have one camp at the stadium and maybe another camp at Bowie. You know, it's not ideal like having the backfield at
Right.
Sarasota, but because I don't see fans purchasing tickets to fly down to Florida for spring training this year.
No, I tell you, we're going down the end of this month.
Right.
We just actually got a place today a Longboat Key.
Are you driving down or flying
We're
down?
gonna drive down. And,
Yep, that's what I figured.
We're gonna be down there for a month, 6 weeks, something like that. But normally you couldn't get a place. That was absolutely out of the question. But the thing is, you talk about. I spoke to some minor league people that are involved with different teams, executives, and they have no idea what's going on with baseball. They just, I asked, are you guys going to play? And one of the things that was said that the AAA and Major League would start spring training, and then after a while, then the AA and on down would start their training. So you're looking, at the end of probably April.
Yeah.
Before you get started.
You're saying about the end of April. I'm saying the end of May. I'm saying about May 20th.
Very possible.
Probably about,
I heard 135 games, something like that.
So let me ask you a question. Is the plan now in minor league baseball to have their regular season, or are they going to try and play like 80 or 90 games in the
Stan, they have no idea.
They have no idea now.
They don't know what's going on. They haven't heard anything. I asked a lot of questions today about things, and they said, Grims, we don't know. They haven't told us anything. So, they're panicking. They are really panicking.
I find the most fascinating thing out of all this, and I think what cuts across me is how unfair it is to designated hitters like Nelson Cruz, who have worked their careers to get to the point where they can be free agents, and Major League Baseball's still not at a point where they can say, hey, we're going to go forward with DH in 30 teams. That expands his market. It's unfair on the club's ability to decide how they want to purchase players and get players. I think it's really amateurish. It's the amateur hour as far as I'm concerned.
I tell you what, the veteran player is being eliminated slowly.
Yeah.
As the minor league teams are being eliminated slowly. It's all about saving a buck, in this $11 billion industry. And granted, with fewer games, there's not that revenue coming in, but there's still that TV money. But and this is end of this year. That's when the
players, that's when the rubber meets the road, because that's when
is going to be some interesting. Yeah, that's going to be some interesting things that have to that Major League Baseball and the Players Association are going to have to agree on. I mean, a lot of different rules. Do you want these rules that they're trying to shove down to get people in the park? Now, I just don't. I don't know. It's say what you want about it, but I just enjoy just regular baseball with some strategy, and you don't have it now. You just don't have it.
So let's get back over to the Orioles for a second. Since the end of the season, we saw two coaches go in Doug Brocal and Jose Flores, the pitching coach and the third base / infield coach. And in their place are Chris Holt and Tony Massolino. Massolino's 38, so I don't think you've had a great deal of bumping into him, but
No.
have you ever rubbed elbows with
I,
Messalino?
no, I haven't. I mean, the name, if I saw him, and I'd have to look back and see where he coached at and where he played at, for that matter. I'm sure over my 31 years of coaching, I've ran into him somewhere as a coach or a player. Now,
Well, he only got to the major leagues last year because Terry Francona was ill and only managed 14 games. He came up to be the third base coach for Sandy Alomar.
right.
I wonder if Kobe Perez, the Orioles international guy, rubbed elbows with him in Cleveland and likes the guy, you know?
Yeah, very, very possible. I don't know his connection with anybody here with
Right.
the Orioles. Now, with the Chris Holt situation, that was going to happen eventually. Now,
Yeah.
just when the move was made last year to put Holt as a kind of a go-between between Major League Baseball, you kind of knew the writing was on the wall. So, I mean, that's not a surprise whatsoever.
Right. Okay. So we got the two new coaches on the staff, and look, to me, I think it's clear, like you said, they needed to make room for Holt, or else they were
Right.
afraid they might lose him to another team. And in the case of Massolino, I think these younger, maybe there's somebody that knows him. My bet is it's the international scouting guy, Kobe Perez, I think is his name.
Right.
Who was with the Cleveland Indians organization. So that's what my guess is. All right, so we got those two new coaches. We traded our shortstop, Jose Iglesias.
Yeah, right.
In what I talked to one scout, this guy is not a huge fan of Mike Elias, but he said, I got to give credit to Elias. The best move he ever made was signing Jose Iglesias.
Right.
Worst move he ever made was trading him for what he traded him for.
Exactly right.
What do you think?
I have heard that. I've spoken to several people, some higher up people in different organizations, and people said, here's a guy, Iglesias was making what, $2.5 million?
I think he was going to make 3.5 this coming year. Yeah.
Right. Which he would probably not make that depending on the games. But anyway, here is a guy who is a quality shortstop who can hit a little bit, excellent fielder, and a lot of the infield that are free agents are going to demand big bucks. This guy could have went somewhere and you could have got a lot more for him and a lot better players, because they would have wanted him to have that. They would have taken that contract that he had.
Now
not had to shell out the big bucks.
Have you talked to anybody though, in when you dig in and try and find out stuff? Do you run across anybody that has anything to say about the kids they got, Stallings or Pinto, the left-handed pitcher Stallings?
I asked a couple of people, and they didn't have a lot of information on them. Right. I mean, they're young guys that first year. Last year was their first year. And I mean, one of the guys didn't even play. I don't think, did he?
Pinto did. Pinto did not play.
Yeah. So I mean.
Oh, actually, wait a minute. Stallings has not played minor league baseball because in 19 he was sort of at his innings limit when he got out of college. Right. And they didn't want to use him anymore, so they said we'll sit you till 20. And now he didn't pitch this year. So.
Well, and then I hear Elias liked him a lot.
Well, wait a minute. Where they did see him was in the fall league this year.
Well, I think even before that, he was supposedly on the radar.
Okay.
But then they liked him a lot, but I mean, they passed on him several times in the draft.
Right.
So anyway, you get a chance to get him. But the whole thing was, from what everybody says, with a demand for Iglesias, with these other teams at shortstop, what they needed a spot for kind of a deal money-wise, you probably could have got a much better, return for him than they got.
We'll see in time what the return really is. Mike Elias has his standards, and he's happy. I think he's happy with the deal. I guarantee you, Perry Manasian, the new general manager of the Angels, is ecstatic about this deal. Yeah.
Well, the Angels are going. They're going with big name guys, and they're going with a lot of talent, especially pitching wise. They need that. They've always needed that out there. Much like San Diego. I mean, they're in to win. They're going. They're going for it.
Yeah,
so
a lot of people think they're going to make a surprising move for Trevor Bauer. We'll see. That's going to cost a lot of money.
Exactly.
It's going to cost a lot of money. Hey, I want to talk to you, of course, about some of the players that aren't coming back to the Orioles, but I want to talk to you about one player that I have to admit, it didn't sadden me to see him go, and that's David Hess. But I was immediately taken with the fact that the team that signed him was very aggressive in signing him, and that was the Tampa Bay Rays.
Right.
Give me a pitcher's, you've been a pitching coach. What do you like about David, and what was he unable to do with the Orioles?
For me, watching him pitch, he's a guy that a lot of teams liked him. I mean, from what I saw and what I had heard and what I'd seen, a lot of teams liked him. But he's a guy that just his ball's pretty straight. They get a good look at him. He has to really pinpoint his stuff. He's not overpowering.
No.
But he's a guy that he throws strikes, and that's a big thing. If you could locate the ball.
Do you see him more as a bullpen guy?
Yeah, as a middle type guy, yes.
Yeah, middle guy.
No, he just don't have the. Well, I mean, to pitch 4 innings, that seems to be the thing.
Right.
But
or a glorified opener, maybe.
Doing
a third
possibly.
Innings.
Yeah, I mean that. But he just never. He could get over the hump. He didn't have. He doesn't have outstanding stuff, but he'll go along and he'll make that mistake, give up that 3-run home run, he seems to get down and gets doesn't make that big pitch when he needs it.
You're old enough because we're in the same ballpark, 69 and 71 in the next couple of days. It was like whenever the Celtics would pick up somebody like that, or the Yankees would go to Kansas City and pick somebody up, and all of a sudden the guy would turn into a winner. It's got me a little nervous that they see something in David Hess that they think that they can correct or something like that.
You also look.
Moves. Yeah,
sure. The pitching and scouting for them and Cleveland. Here's 2 small market teams who depend on pitching and boots and eyes on the ground. That's very important. But again, Hess doesn't have to pitch in Camden Yards. And that is really something I don't think a lot of people, understand that pitching in it, you can't make mistakes and you can't walk people there, but the ball flies out like a rocket. It's one of the top places as far as home runs are hit. And when you're pitching there, it's in the back of your mind, but you can't, a lot of guys change their approach. And you can't do that. You got to go with what you do best. But I think it affects a lot of guys differently, and it's very possible he's a guy that it could have affected. I mean, he give up some home runs. He doesn't get away with many mistakes.
No, he doesn't.
And that was a problem. So hey, Tampa Bay's had a lot of success with pitchers. Who knows?
All right, we'll see. Let's talk about 2 other guys that the organization lost before we talk about who they got. In the Rule 5 draft, I was a guest on my old Saturday morning radio show, The Bat Around with Paul Valley, which is heard every Saturday on our website, PressBoxOnline.com. It's also on Facebook Live each and every Saturday from 10 to 12. I was a guest about a month ago, and we talked about who we could lose. And I said the 2 guys I was worried about, and believe me, I don't have the great depth of knowledge that Molesky has on the Oriole farm system, but I said I'm worried about losing Zach Pop and maybe Gray Fenter. And sure enough, those are the 2 guys the Orioles lost. The Arizona Diamondbacks took Zach Pop, but only to immediately deal him to Kim Ang with the Miami Marlins. She's the new general manager. And Gray Fenter went to, I think, a good situation, a team that's desperate for some decent quality starting pitching, and that's the Chicago Cubs. I don't see either Pop or Fenter getting back to the Orioles at all.
Probably not. I mean, that's uh, the Orioles had so many people that they had to make some really tough decisions on who to keep and who to subject to the Rule 5 draft. And you took a chance. And what you try to do, a lot of times you try to sneak people through, and hopefully people don't see them. But and again, with the scouting, it's very important that you have scouts that are on the ground that can see guys, because a lot of times the analytics are not going to tell the whole story. It'll help out with some things, but to see that guy and see how he handles situations and what he does and how he comes back after being knocked around a little bit, how he handles success and how he handles failure. You got to watch that. But
the Orioles made that trade in 2018 to trade Manny Machado to the Dodgers, and Pop, I think, probably had the biggest upside. I guess Diaz still has an upside, but
yeah,
I thought Pop, really, his numbers in the minor leagues looked really pretty special.
Yeah. Then I guess he struggled at the big league level, just as a lot of guys do. Yeah. And
he's had the Tommy John surgery.
He had the Tommy John surgery, so that they think that maybe he can bounce back from that, which is something a lot of guys have now. And we see more of those injuries last year. And that's a whole nother story,
what I find pretty interesting, Ross, is they lose two guys that had sort of stories behind them. Pop with the Tommy John surgery. Fenter had an injury history and delayed his career really getting underway. And they trade them for the two guys they picked up, Ben McDonald's nephew, Max Scroller, a fifth-round pitcher from the Reds organization from 2017, and Tyler Wells, a 15th rounder out of the 2016 draft with the Twins. And they both have the same sort of injury history. And
really,
it's like they traded two guys that were wild cards for two more wild cards.
They must see something in them, obviously, to make that move. But again, you do things. It's a lot of times with pitchers at the lower level, it's a crapshoot. But you got to really do your homework on them. There's a lot of things that go into it that a lot of people don't really see or understand to make those decisions. And it's a lot of times it's comes back to bite you, but most of the time you really do the right thing.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting. Wells is 6'8". He's coming back from, I think, reconstructive surgery 2 years ago on his elbow. And they're working. They think they might have something pretty special there. We'll see. And the other kid is interesting, and I gotta believe that Mike Elias likes to talk to Ben McDonald about the he talks to him, and this is, I think, a guy, Max Scroller, from the SEC.
Right.
I think he played in the SEC, and he's Ben McDonald's nephew. So we'll get a look at them in spring training.
Right.
It's interesting. I was counting the numbers, and just follow me for 1 second in the rotation. You got Means, Cobb, Kramer, and Aiken. Maybe Paco Lopez, or Jorge Lopez. And then you got to figure that they'll take a look at Bruce Zimmerman in spring training as a possible starter.
Right.
And then I think they'll probably pick up one or two of like a Felix Hernandez or, somebody that's trying to come back, for one of those. So now you flip it over and you got Travis Lakins, Paul Fry, Hunter Harvey, Tanner Scott, Dylan Tate, Armstrong, Valdez, and Sulcer. Who are these guys exactly going to beat out to be on the major league roster the whole season?
Right, that's going to be tough. But again, if they do, so much depends on the coronavirus and what happens in the vaccine and so forth and so on. Hopefully, the Orioles 60 games last year, 37% of the schedule. And one of the things that I learned in my whole career, don't read a lot into spring training. Don't read a lot into the September call-ups.
Buck Showalter, that was his mantra. Don't get fooled by March or September.
It's really hard to watch. I mean, you got to really be smart. But I mean, who are they playing against? What? And there's so many
what was
variables
the
that come into
wind
play.
like? You know, down there, the wind
Well, I
can
mean,
either help the hitters
yeah,
or help, you know, or help the
but
pitchers.
I mean, spring training is for the pitchers.
Yep.
The hitters are ready soon enough, and they kind of they sit back, and half the guys don't go on the road when they have games on the road. So who are they playing against? That tells you a lot. But you know, last year, I mean, you saw some good things. 37% of the games. That's 6 games, a whole lot.
All right,
And you saw some good things. You saw the Orioles. I think they were 5-13 the last 18, 19 games. So what happens is in season, and these guys, you gotta see how they handle 162 games with fans that are on them.
yeah.
You know, when they go to these other places. I mean, you saw some good things. Don't get me wrong, but also you got to take it kind of with a grain of salt, you know, and see how these guys are going to handle this.
Let's take a quick look at this rotation. John Means, after, you know, he had the trouble where he was injured a little early, and then his dad died. And then after about 5 starts, and it wasn't a long season, so he had probably 10 or 11 for the season. But his last 6 or 7 times out, he was pretty special last year.
He started pitching the way he pitched the year before.
Yeah.
He comes to spring training. He's throwing what? Supposedly 5 miles an hour harder.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, and that's not him. That's not the way he pitches. So this velocity thing, I mean, that's something that, you know, guys throwing as hard as they can every single pitch, and they never throttle back. And that leads to a lot of injuries, which we saw last year, especially shutting down spring training and not having a long enough spring training to start the season when it started up again. But Means was not the same pitcher until he went, wait a minute. Somebody tells it, pitch the way you pitched. You use a changeup. You're not a power guy.
Right.
You know, and that's the way. And his breaking ball got better when he started backing off a little bit and not trying to overdo it. You know, and that's just
the number 2 starter is Alex Cobb, and we all know that this will go down in history as one of the worst contracts the club ever signed. They paid him more money than you know, Ubaldo Jimenez, who, by the way, announced his retirement from baseball this offseason. But Alex Cobb, at times last year, pitched the way that the Orioles, like the pitcher they thought they were acquiring. How important is it for the Orioles to get 6, 7, 8, 9 good starts out of Cobb, and then when his contract value is only worth $6 million or $7 million instead of 15, maybe somebody will be looking at picking him up?
Right. I mean, if he gets off to any type of start and shows any ability to put these injuries behind him, he'll be out of here. He'll be gone. Yeah. They'll get something for him, and hopefully for his sake that his injury situation has you know, gone by the wayside for him. But yeah, it's a big. I mean, he can help. He can help the young pitchers on this staff. He can also spell the bullpen by giving you 6, 7, 8 innings maybe.
Yeah, he's a good guy to have on a club.
Absolutely.
I see him being more valuable for a team like Boston or Toronto that's going for something. Than the Orioles right now.
Right.
Your thoughts
but then you go, Stan. Then you go, if you get rid of him, who's going to take his place? And if he's throwing well, he's going to eat up innings and save your bullpen. So he does anything, he's gone. So who steps into that role? That's a big thing, right? Well,
would you agree with me that before spring training starts, the Orioles will have picked up 1 or 2 cheap veterans that might have a little tread left on the tires? Do you think they will do something like that? Yeah.
I think at least one guy. I tell you what they really need, and it will help your defense has to be better. Your has to improve, especially in the outfield, and that's something that you know, we saw it last year. There were some issues. show another place. First base, you got what, 10 guys over at first base. So hopefully Mancini's going to play, and
Right.
hopefully he is okay
Yep.
and can bounce back and do. Santander's another guy. Hopefully a lot of injuries on this.
And
Hayes,
Mountcastle.
Mountcastle's
Who was
a
not
guy
injured. Yeah.
right.
Thank goodness.
Here's a guy that, and as we asked, and this is a question I always ask: who's the difference maker on this Oriole team?
Right.
In the big leagues and the minor leagues, and Mountcastle's name came up.
Yeah.
So
he was impressive.
He's important. Yeah, he's important.
When I look at the veteran types that the Orioles could possibly get, and I don't know if you saw either one of these guys pitch last spring. One of them I don't think even pitched in the spring, but he was picked up by the Red Sox on a minor league deal, low guarantee. Was former Houston Astro Colin McHugh, who for 3 or 4 years in Houston was like 52 and 28 at one time. I'm guessing he has some relationship with Chris Holt a little bit, and he wouldn't be very expensive. I don't think he'd cost you more than $1 million. That's one of the guys I'm looking at. He's 33 years old.
He's not a tremendously overpowering guy. He's got a good fastball, but he's got that big hook. He's believing, we talked about that through the 25, 26 breakup, he had an arm issue. So that's something that you just can't do.
All right, we'll see.
He's a guy exactly. He's somebody that possibly he's got to change up too, but he's a guy that could possibly, for the right price, you can get him. And he would,
again, I'm always looking at it two ways when you get a guy like that. If you get him and he's really pitches above what his dollars are, you've got a guy that you might even want to extend, but where the Orioles are now, that's not what they're thinking. I think he becomes a potential valuable trade chip if he's really back pitching the way he did for the Astros.
Right. Well, and tell me this, and you look at the Orioles, you get to a certain age here and you're gone.
Yeah.
Especially if you're making any money. Yeah. Where does that put Trey Mancini?
Well,
here's no a guy, 28, 29, 30 years old.
Yeah.
He has a good year. He
could be gone. Look, the fans love Trey, and we all love the story of his coming back from colon cancer. But there's no question the Orioles will, Mike Elias would trade his mother right now, if he could get a couple of prospects for
a first year A-ball guy.
Right, exactly.
I'm going, geez, look at the guys they've traded,
So give me your 10-cent analysis of two guys, Dean Kramer and Keegan Aiken. I was impressed with both. Were you?
Yeah, no, I more so with Kramer. I think Kramer's got 4 pitches that are really usable. Again, not an overpowering guy, pretty good at breaking ball. I mean, you gotta look at it. He showed some promise, but again, it was the end of that was last year, and I can't take a lot, some, but not to see more over a year, a period of time. Obviously 162 games, even 140, but give run out there, 28, 30 times and see what happens. Because you're going to face teams several times. You're going to face a lot of teams in this Eastern division, which is really tough. A lot of tough teams. Aiken's a guy that pretty sneaky, hides the ball and tough to pick up. His breaking ball.
It seemed like teams had a hard time picking him up. Yeah.
Oh yeah, it's really tough, and he's got that change up. He's learning how to pitch backwards. Get that fastball count and throw that change up, and his breaking ball got well. So yeah, these guys, you'd like to see them a little bit more over a period of time, but they did show some ability and an idea how to pitch. I like Kramer a little bit more because I think he's more refined and got overall better 4 pitches. But Aiken, left-handed, he hides the ball, and he's tough to pick up. And hopefully these guys continue to improve.
All right. Let's take a quick look at the bullpen. I mentioned the names before. Cesar Valdez, who's, probably listed at 36 years of age, he could be
Right.
45. I don't know how it always has been like sort of a wives' tale about Latin pitchers or
Yeah.
Latin players, that they're always
Right.
older than they say. How does he do it? And is it possible he could do that over a whole season as sort of a quasi closer, Ross?
Yeah, I don't know. As a closer, he may get the opportunity,
Yeah.
but science, footwork, and some magic, and smoke and mirrors. Hey, whatever works. It's a lot of guys have done it, but yeah, it just I think one of the hardest things in baseball at any professional level is to wait. And that's the hardest thing for hitters to do, is wait. And that that ball comes out of your hand. Here's a guy that slow and slower. Guys, it's
He's
really
like,
it's really
he's like
tough
a
to wait.
right-handed. He's like a right-handed Mike Cuellar.
Yeah, exactly,
He's
exactly.
just-
And I mean, it's he can pitch every day.
Yep.
And
Yep.
save your staff, save your pen, and gets on a roll and can do some things to help you win some games.
Well, what a difference it would be if they use a two-man closer scenario with him and Hunter Harvey being the exact opposite.
Right.
Yeah, you've been around the game a long time. You played 13, 14 years in the big leagues, maybe a couple more than that, but you also coached for a long time. Is Hunter Harvey still worth hanging your hat on, that he can get past the injuries and really be something special?
I tell you, they've been very cautious with him,
Yep,
not
protective.
overdoing
Yep,
it. Hey, really, and at some point in time, they're going to have to take the wraps off and go get them. And I think when they finally start becoming competitive and start trying to win games. I mean, they're trying to win games. Don't get me wrong,
that. Right.
But you got to put your front office has got to put at some point in time players out on the field that can match the other teams.
Right.
And once they do that, then you got something. But yeah, as soon as the wraps are taken off of him and they let him go, it'll be again 162 games. It's a lot of time, a lot of games.
Last season, I would ask periodically for about a 2-week period about Tanner Scott, and Brandon Hyde and I were on a wavelength. I would ask the questions, and he would say, that's a pretty good analysis. He's doing some really special stuff. And as soon as I got him to talk about him 3 times, all of a sudden he went backwards again for about 2 or 3 weeks.
Yeah.
But then he finished strong again at the end. There's been some serious growth in him over the last 2.5 years.
Yeah. Now
You like what you see?
I mean, you did. Oh yeah, a left-handed got a great. You have to stay with left-handed pitchers a little bit longer than you do right-handed pitchers,
Right?
Because they take a little bit longer to develop. And I've seen this over, a lot of times. You just can't, as soon as you give up on them, they whammo. They're there in the big leagues and they're dealing. But here's a guy that had trouble throwing strikes. He might throw the ball over the backstop at one point in time, but his command got better. It's continually getting better. His breaking ball has really improved.
Really tough to hit.
And I tell you what, if it's around the plate, if he can ever learn to throw that one for a strike and throw the one to get him to fish after it, and get command of being able to throw a strike and a ball, and knowing what you're going to do and having an idea what you need to do. But you see it developing, maybe not as fast as you'd want it to, but you see it happening at times, and you go, this guy's starting to figure something out, and that's what you really want to see.
Dan Duquette picked up Dylan Tate in the Zach Britton trade, and I don't know who handled his career in terms of what they thought they were doing, turning him into a starting pitcher. This is a guy who was a superstar in college as a relief pitcher. They tried to make him a starter. After 3 years in the Yankee organization, he had never pitched more than like 80 innings in a season. Right. And I'm saying, this guy's a relief pitcher. And I like what I see out of Dylan Tate.
He's a guy that's starting to move in the right direction and throwing more strikes, locating the ball, to both sides of the plate a little bit better. Pretty good breaking ball at time. I think he throws a split, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
I could be. I believe he does. That could be very nasty at times. So once these guys start having some confidence in themselves and they're able to repeat pitches and they're able to locate, be able to throw a ball and be able to throw a strike. And that's the craziest thing in the world for people to hear, but you got to have the ability to do that.
I got my last question for you, because we can talk about Lakins and Fry and Armstrong and Cole Sulser another time. I'm not diminishing them, but my last question is about the manager. You've been around this game a long time, and teams that are rebuilding hire a manager. And an awful lot of times, as Rich Renteria has found out twice with teams in Chicago, that just when the team's getting better, sometimes there's a more attractive looking seasoned manager. Has Brandon Hyde, in the 2 years you've watched him, look like one of the few who will survive a rebuild and be the manager of the Orioles for 6 to 10 years? Or is he going to be the guy, just as soon as they get good, that Mike Elias says, let me go get, Tony La Russa or, John Farrell, somebody who's won a World Series or something.
Right. Well, I mean, it's hard to say, but I really hope whatever happens that they keep him in the organization. I mean,
I like him. I like him a lot.
He's busting his butt. They're going through years, losing 100 games and really struggling. He's not, as soon as he gets a decent player, then they get rid of him and get,
I imagine in the Hyde household, when the Orioles picked up the option on Iglesias contract, he went, yeah. And then 4 days later, they dealt him.
Right. I mean, you got to go just when you think, oh, we're just starting to get. I mean, nobody wants to lose. I mean, I don't. Everybody wants to win. Those guys in the clubhouse, Brandon Hyde wants to win. I don't care that they want to go out and win, but when you're outmanned every night, it's not fun. It's not fun, and I just can't. As a player, I want to be part of this rebuild. No, I don't. I don't want to lose every night. That's not fun. I did it once. I was with Cleveland, in I forget what, in 80, I think. And a lot of good guys, but they just weren't as good as the other team. And it's not fun to go out and get beat. It's much more fun to win.
When you're a manager, it's hard to be the difference maker in given games when you're outmanned, like you say. But I do think he has set a very good example. I think it was something to be proud of, how little problem we had with COVID, that they respected him and respected their teammates.
They're all in it. It's a lot like being in the minor leagues. Everybody's basically the same. There's nobody making a lot of money, and they're making money in the big leagues, obviously, but everybody's kind of the same, in the same boat. They're pulling for each other and doing. And not that doesn't happen anyway, but it's everybody's basically, there's no superstar, basically. Right. There's guys that are getting ready to move in that direction, but everybody's basically the same. And, and again, they want to win. God, they want to win. I mean, if you don't, then you have no business being there. But even Brent, I feel bad for
I just thought,
I mean, it's got to be tough.
I just thought, under very trying circumstances, I thought he had a very good season last year. I thought he handled himself and it reflected well on him. Yeah.
He has done a great job, keeping or at least trying, and you see sometimes on some of the post game, he is really frustrated. And he just really battles through it, and he can't wait for it to be over so he can get the hell out. But it's tough. It's really hard to do that. But I mean, he just keeps plugging away and doing the best he can with what he's got.
Hey, somehow through the pandemic, you and I began doing this back in last May, and it's caught on. We're going to have a sponsor starting next week. I'm excited to talk about them at the beginning of each one. Ben McDonald will be our guest this coming Monday night on the 11th. This Wednesday night on my birthday, Gary Stein and I will have Terry Hazeltine and two members of his team. Terry's the executive director for Maryland Sports, and two members of his team that are trying diligently to put Maryland, the state of Maryland, in the best possible light to attract either a World Cup game in 2026. You talk about the future,
Yeah.
a rebuild like the Orioles. Terry Hasseltine's been working since 2017 on the
Unbelievable.
2026 effort. So Maryland trying to get a game to be played probably at M&T Bank Stadium, or and possibly get a game and a team that will make Baltimore their practice home. So we'll talk to a couple members of his team, Gary Stein and I, Wednesday night.
That'd be
Great to see you again, Ross.
Always a pleasure, buddy.
Happy, healthy New Year. I know you got a couple other names in your Rolodex you're going to pull out.
Yes, we are. We got some.
The Orioles are going to try and help us get a couple interesting people. We're trying to get Chris Holt, Matt Blood.
Right. That'd be great.
Freddie Gonzalez, a couple of those people. And we'll talk to you next week. You like the Ravens Sunday against Tennessee?
I tell you, it's going to be a good game. I know Tennessee beat them in overtime, 30-24 last time. So I tell you what, if they can stop the running back for Tennessee, Henry, and then Tannehill is a guy that you never know.
They got to get some pressure on Tannehill.
Oh, absolutely.
Got to get some pressure on him.
But I tell you what, with the Ravens look really good the other day. They were they
looked pretty good 3 or 4 of the last weeks, but they didn't play anybody. You know, they had the Sisters of the Poor they were playing.
Yeah. I tell you, Tennessee Cincinnati looked absolutely brutal. They crushed them. Terrible. They crushed them. But I like them. I like the Ravens.
I like the Ravens to move forward. Yeah, they'll probably end up
especially with Lamar. Lamar behind there. He's tough to stop.
And then you got
him. You got Dobbins, who has really come on. Yeah. But Brown in receiving, they got some guys that are really tough. Yep, for the other team.
All right, that'll be 105 on Sunday. 105 on Sunday. All right, for Ross Grimsley, I'm Stan the Fan Charles, and we'll see you Wednesday night. Gary Stein and I doing the same thing at 8 o'clock on Facebook Live. Thanks. Good night, everybody.
Good night.